Some exchange betting companies run short-lived promotions, like months-long offers of low commission. At BetDAC, we wanted to change the way we did things, so we set our commission at 2% permanently. That's 2% on football, horse racing, golf, almost any sport. 2%. That's just one way that BetDAC is changing for the better. For the better, like you. BetDAC, the 2% commission exchange.
Over 18s only, please gamble responsibly.
Hello and welcome back to the ROKER Report XTRA podcast. You're with your host Graham. We're currently celebrating 3 points, which has been a little while. Nice 4-2 win over Gillingham yesterday, which could have quite easily been 4-0. Very positive display. We all seem a little bit happier than we were maybe this time last week. But we're also mourning the loss of Connor Bromley, our podcast host. He's had a free transfer move to Sunderland officially, not to play up front, but to do media. Now, I've seen him play centre off, so I must be honest, I'm very much pleased that he's moved into media as opposed to the playing staff. But from me to you, Connor, bravo and well done. But moving on very swiftly, because now he's gone, he's dead to us, we can speak to our guest this week, which is Tom from the
GasCast.
So, Tom, you did us a favour yesterday. You got a draw with Portsmouth. How's things in Bristol?
Yeah, good. Unexpected point at Pompey. We traditionally get thumped pretty much every time we go there. But we played really well, really well, surprisingly well. And we got quite a fortuitous penalty, which Johnson Clark-Harris tucked away nicely. The second one was a Stonewall penalty, which he then blazed over the bar and from what I've seen on Twitter into the back of the stand at the very back row. So yeah, if you've seen it, I don't know if you have, it's an absolute conversion. It's unreal.
Haven't seen it yet, but now I'm kind of really wanting to. And I said you did us a favour. I didn't realise you'd missed a pen. Could have done us more of a favour.
Should have taken the 3 points really, and actually it's a massive opportunity lost for us because everyone around us lost pretty much. I think Rochdale drew in the end, but everyone else around us was dropping points. So if we'd managed to tuck away that second pen, it would have catapulted us up to the heady heights of, I think, 17th.
A little bit of daylight.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been. It really would have been. So I think we're a point clear at the moment, which obviously is squeaky bum. But yeah, big opportunity missed for us, I think.
Especially when you've got, like you said, Rochdale for one, and Shrewsbury really struggling this season, and Oxford as well. So, I mean, last time you spoke to us, there was a change in manager. Literally, I think it was hours after Clarke had went, we spoke to yourselves, and it was actually Jimmy who was stepping in for me. But nothing seems to have changed that much in terms of like league position. You're a little bit better off than what you were, but not much. So has it got better? Is it just the league position looks the same?
It's definitely got better. Graham's come in, it's made us harder to beat. Definitely. He's kind of moved out a few of the players in January that needed to kind of move on a bit. Brought in a couple that have been fantastic. But the main thing is he's changed the system. So we were quite defensive under Darrell, like really quite bad. And we just kind of hoof it up to the strikers. We're playing a lot more through the wings now. We've got Alex Roblin from Shrewsbury, who's been fantastic on the right for us. And we just seem to be just attacking a little bit more. And it makes watching Rovers a lot better, but it does mean that we've picked up a lot more points. But our biggest strength is, at the moment, our defensive solidity. We don't give many goals away. Our main problem has been, even though we have been scoring more goals, up front is where we're struggling at the moment. If we look at our top goal scorers, are Ollie Clarke from midfield, Tom Lockyer from defence, on 5 goals each. It's not our best striker, our highest scoring striker, as to say. Gavin Riley is only on 3. It's clear to see why we're down where we are. But I do feel if we'd stuck with Darrell, I think we would have been certs for relegation. I think Graham has come in, and I think we've only lost 2 under Graham. Unfortunately, we haven't won all that many. We've, again, drawing last night, we've had far too many draws really to kind of drag ourselves out of the relegation zone, or out of that kind of mess. So we're kind of treading water at the minute, getting enough draws to kind of keep ourselves going, but we do need to start picking up the wins, and especially against teams around us is where we've really struggled to, where we think, brilliant, we've got like Oxford at home or Wycombe at home, we can really kind of do something here, like Shrewsbury at home a few weeks ago, and then we either lose or draw. And it's not until we play the big teams that we actually kind of start playing really well and get results that we don't expect, like drawing at Portsmouth and stuff like that. So, yeah, a bit of a monologue there, but yeah, it has got better under Graham, but not quite good enough to pull ourselves clear.
You mentioned a player before, Gavin Riley. Living in Scotland, I knew quite a lot about St Mirren last season, and I watched what they did. And so when Jack Ross came in with his assistant manager and with kind of the whole St Mirren setup, I looked at who he could potentially bring from his St Mirren team over, and there was a couple of people that stuck out. Obviously, you had Lewis Morgan, who's eventually ended up here as well. But the big one for me was Gavin Riley. Now, my favourite thing about Gavin Riley, if I'm completely honest with you, is he's got fantastic music taste. Likes all sorts of good music. If you listen, Gavin, yeah, cracking music taste. Big fan of Frightened Rabbit and whatnot. He's definitely a Scottish lad. But he hasn't really hit the ground running, and he did really well for St Mirren last year. He was their top scorer. He was basically Jack Ross's key man up top. So is it just a case of you don't play to his strengths, or has he been pretty poor?
I think under Darrell, we didn't really get a look in, to be honest. We had Stefan Payne and Tom Nichols up top that were always played. And then when Darrell left, Graham started playing. We've got Jakubiak on loan from Watford, who played against you guys, actually, started up top. And that was the kind of first change of the kind of Graham era, was to drop Nichols and Payne, and it has paid dividends. So Riley is kind of down in the pecking order behind those guys. When he has got on, he has been lively. From what I've seen, he's kind of what I would think is an off the shoulder, kind of quite deadly finisher. We saw that against Southend when they played a suicidally high line, challenging, I think it was Nichols up on the near enough on the halfway line, both of them, and then Nichols kind of played it in behind for Riley, ran through, bosh under the keeper, no bother. He is really good in front of goal like that, and he seems quick. So the way that Graham generally has been playing him is in behind another striker, which has kind of been either Jakubiak or Nichols sometimes. So I don't really feel like we're playing to his strengths. But when he does kind of play off the shoulder, I feel like he's a lot better in that position.
When I was looking at your team in general, I think it's quite obvious which players are going to be the players that will drag you out of it. I think for me, the one that really stood out, and the one that stood out at the Stadium of Light, was Ollie Clarke. He's been there a long time. For people who may not be aware of Ollie Clarke, what kind of player have you got on your hands there?
So Ollie Clarke is a combative midfielder. He is blood and guts, kind of like massive tackles, dives in a lot. But he's good on the ball as well, and he can drive from midfield. He scores well. He's our joint top goal scorer, so yeah. He does score some good goals, and he doesn't ever score tap-ins. He always scores screamers from outside the box. So generally his goal build-up is get it deep in midfield, drive, shoot, and he can shoot on either foot. He's got an absolute traction engine of both feet really. The only problem is that he will pick up quite a few yellows. I think he was suspended for last night, so he'll be available on Saturday. And he's got a bit of a temper on him. He tends to get probably 2 or 3 bookings a season for mouthing off at the ref.
When I watched him, he kind of reminded me of like a less experienced Lee Cattermole. Like, he was a bit like a terrier, isn't he? So he gets kind of, I mean, you like it as a fan, don't you? But he doesn't half get stuck in, and I think he's on 10 bookings, like you said. He's suspended, so he's unfortunately back for the game on Saturday against us. But would you say he's your key player?
Ooh, Yeah, he's been one of our best players this season. He went through a phase of kind of drifting in and out of games. He does this quite a lot. Where one game he'll take it by the scruff of the neck and he'll play like a 9 out of 10, and then the next game he'll be anonymous. It's really infuriating. On his day, he is probably up there with the best in the league. So it's kind of difficult. It's going to see which Ollie Clarke turns up. Hopefully, having a rest will mean we get the amazing Ollie Clarke is going to bang it bings, but we'll see.
You've got a defender as well, Tom Lockyer, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who was given his debut by our old manager, Chris Coleman, who, for all his failings at Sunderland, certainly knew how to build a good Wales team. And you mentioned before your strength is in defence. Does that come from Tom Lockyer, or would you say you've got something a little bit more superior next to him?
So Lockyer is a funny one. Full Wales international. He is solid, and this season seems to be, so far, his best season for us, especially goals-wise. But he plays next to Tony Craig, who we got from Millwall. And I mean, if he was on FIFA Aggression 20, he is an apps. He's a bit of a menace. He's quite short though. The both of them are quite short. Locks is under 6 foot, I believe, and Craig's shorter than that. So height is where I think those two struggle. But generally, in the past, we've seen the best from Locks when he is next to a big centre back. We had Mark McChrystal for quite a few years, and those two as a defensive pairing were absolutely fantastic. Last season when Craig come in, we were a bit worried about, well, the lack of height really, but this season they seem to have just kind of sorted it out, and they've been really, really solid. I can't really make any complaints about them at all. And going across the back four, at right back we've had James Clarke, who traditionally is quite a utility player. He'll play anywhere. He'll do the washing up in the kitchen. He'll rewire your car. Like he'll just do anything.
We've all got one of them, don't we?
Yeah. But he's been really, really solid at right back, and then at left back, probably one of Darrell's best signings. And fortunately, never really got to see him play because we signed him when he was injured. Tariq Holmes-Dennis. We got him from Huddersfield, and he was injured until after Christmas, I believe. He started out playing for us on the left wing, scored against Walsall. He's an incredible player. Now he's back at left back. He is a class above, and if he can stay fit, we're going to struggle to keep hold of him in the summer for sure.
You were talking about how the defence is your main strength, pretty much, and it's you can see just by reading the statistics, the story does kind of tell itself a little bit based on how many goals your strikers have. But what kind of centre forwards does your defence struggle against, or what kind of teams does your team struggle against? Do you struggle against sort of long ball and aggressive, or more football based teams?
I'd say more football based teams. Surprisingly, for how much I just banged on about Locks and Craig being short, they do win a surprising amount in the air. And they can dominate strikers. So generally, when we've had big players come into the men, they've been able to handle them on the whole. It's the ball playing teams we struggle against, the movement. Just when we come up against a team that is classy and can kind of play us, that's where we're going to struggle. And I feel like, unfortunately, Sunderland kind of fit that mould almost perfectly. As we saw at the Stadium of Light, I think when you guys were lumping it, we were okay. And then when you were getting it wide and getting crosses in, that's where we started to struggle. And I think definitely your first goal came from that. Your second goal was Madger, one-on-one with Tony Craig, put him on his arse and just slotted it.
That was a lovely goal. Pains me to think about that, actually. Many people will be listening to that will be a little bit worried because we've had a tendency to hump it long since we've signed Jimmy Dunn. But when we put it on the floor, we're a much better team. So hopefully we'll continue with that and get out to the wings and get some balls in for Will Grigg. Now, when it comes to fans of away teams, I think we've always wanted to, or fans of the team were playing, sorry. I always like chatting about your team and things like that as well. But there's an extra added incentive to ask you about our team this year because of the Netflix documentary. We spoke previously just a little bit about it and you'd watched it. What was your thoughts on it?
I really enjoyed it. I watched it with my missus as well, and she absolutely loved it. It wasn't too kind of just focused on the football. It was all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and you kind of got to see the personal side of players. Like, it's easy enough when you see them once a week on a Saturday to kind of tell them they're lazy or abuse them or whatever, and then you realise they've got to go home and face their family and all that kind of stuff. So it was really good, especially Williams coming back from injury and all that kind of stuff. It was like a really nice, as a football fan, you get that one bit on that Saturday afternoon when you see them, and then you don't kind of think about all the work that goes in through the week. It was also interesting because was it Martin Bain, the CEO?
Yes, Martin Bain. Yep.
Yeah. So from watching that documentary, it came across like he was really trying his best, and missing out on players. I can hear you sniggering. From what I've seen online, Sunderland fans really don't feel that way about him at all.
I think he's a good actor. I'll give him that. I think he should try to be maybe he should wear like a Bane mask, like Bane because I think that would suit his personality better. I felt a little bit like I wouldn't be surprised if they had to reshoot some of his scenes, put it that way. You hear things through the grapevine, and football is a world of rumours. But I think Martin Bain did come across quite well on that. But I would like to have a face-to-face with him, because I live in Glasgow. My family are Rangers fans, where he was at previously, and then he came to Sunderland. So let's just say I don't have a great opinion of Martin Bain. But I get why you could watch it and think he was not so much a hero, but a good guy from it. Yeah, but I don't know if I agree with that. Personal opinion.
Yeah.
Did you have any heroes and villains?
Yeah. The other one was Rodwell. It was super interesting because as a football fan, you know kind of bits and bobs about other teams, and he was never out in the news for sitting on his contract, and just kind of watching him be quite nonchalant about picking up 70 grand a week while the team's struggling and financially struggling as well. It was that side of players that you don't really get to, you don't really want to think about, that to a lot of them is a job. They're paid, they come in, they train, they play, hopefully, and then they go home. It is a job. And whereas I want to think, and every football fan wants to think, that every player playing for your team is privileged and like really grateful for the chance, but a lot of players don't see it like that.
He certainly didn't. You said about him playing and going back home. I don't remember him playing ever. But was it? You mentioned Johnny Williams before. It's funny how the TV show, it was different, like I say, from a supporter's perspective, but there is like a heroes and a villains thing going on with it. You've mentioned a couple of the villains in my eyes, Bain and Rodwell. Was any heroes that when you watched that you thought, I really want him to do well?
I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Catamol, actually.
Good. Lee Barry is loved here. Don't let anyone tell you any different.
Same as Ollie Clarke, kind of the players that have black boots, tuck their shirt in, put everything into a tackle, even if they do get suspended 3 or 4 times a season. Those are my favourite players. Absolutely favourite.
Yeah, same. And Cattermore's not the player he was 5 years ago. Don't get me wrong, and I criticise him as much as many people, but I love Lee Barry Cattermole, just the way it is. He gets the full pronunciation, Cattermole's still part of the team, of course. He feels like he's been part of the team forever because he has. He's entering his testimonial year. He scored his first goal at the Stadium of Light last night against Gillingham. His first ever goal at the Stadium of Light. All of his goals have been away, and there haven't been many of them. But in terms of danger men from Sunderland side, is there like 3 players that you would pick out that you're worried will damage Bristol Rovers at the weekend?
Well, I can name 11 probably. I think obviously Greg, McGeady, and Honeyman. I think Honeyman mostly from the documentary, I have to say. Actually, I quite liked watching him, but the other two from their big names, and they do worry me. I think from the away game, I think was it your left? Was it Gooch? Sorry,
Interesting name.
Very drunk that day. I got my top off, which wasn't a great idea because it was like -2 or something. It was
very cold.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
It bit into you that day. Actually, I remember that really, really well. It was horrible that day. It was super cold. So yeah, that was a rookie move, Tom. Rookie move.
Yeah, absolutely. We came out of the stadium and we had ice rain.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, you have it up here.
Yeah, we don't get it down here. Oh my god, it was like I was getting stabbed.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that day was exceptionally cold. It was actually horrible. And if I remember rightly, I don't think Catmull was playing that day. I was going to say Catmull was in short sleeves, but which would be testament to him, wouldn't it? The game up at the stadium, like Madja played really, really well. I don't know if I want to sort of mention Madja too much because he's now gone. But were you surprised that he went in the January transfer window from the outside looking in?
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd. From the outside looking in, it was a completely odd move. You got a team where you're playing constantly. He's young lad, scoring goals. You kind of think, why would you want to move anyway? But then to kind of make what feels like a bit of a sideways step, because I mean, you guys might get promoted, might not, but odds are looking good. You think if he can carry on as he is, fire you into the Championship, and then test himself there, and with the kind of money that comes with it and that stuff, you think stick around for until at least the summer.
You mentioned Gooch before, and I really rudely cut you off. He's been off form for us a little bit. It is his first real full season where he's playing weekly. What was it that impressed you about Lyndon Gooch? Because I mean, we love him here. Like he's come through our academy.
Crossing, really. I thought his deliveries in were just really, really good. Caused us lots of problems. Like I was saying earlier, like when you were lumping it, it didn't really kind of cause us any problems whatsoever. It was when it was going out wide when it really started to trouble us. And I think, yeah, his deliveries he looked really good from where I was sat.
He's been, like I say, a little bit off form recently, but he's probably likely to play on Saturday due to, I think, the fact that Maguire's got quite a bad injury, from what I'm hearing. Big thing for me, and I asked you this question before. So we're playing each other in the Checkatrade Trophy semi-final. We really, 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 really want to get to Wembley because we like Wembley and we don't have a great deal of success. But what would be more important to you, winning on Saturday or winning the semi-final, and why?
So for me, definitely the league. I think it's bigger anyway. I think you should be prioritising League One survival over the Checkatrade. I think in normal circumstances, I think we should. But in the circumstances we're in with the Checkatrade, with the under-23 teams in there, I don't care about the competition. I wish we weren't this far into it, to be honest. I think having the under-23s in there is quite insulting, frankly. The reasons that the EFL have given around helping the England team, giving these kids experience, for fans to be able to see the players of tomorrow, it's all just bollocks. I can't see it helping the England team. Like when you've got foreign and overage players in the competition, that's not helping the England team at all. It's helping those players get back from injury or giving them experience, but it's not helping England, which is kind of one of the main tenets, which I've noticed in the last kind of couple of seasons, they've silently dropped that big benefit of the competition. So the only kind of good thing about it is that potentially it's brought in a bit of revenue, but I'm not a massive fan of it at all. And I really, really don't want us to be in it. I know there's a lot of gas heads that will disagree with me, and if Rovers were playing in the street, they'd watch from the pavement kind of thing, and they'll go. And if we get to Wembley, they'll go. I know Max, who you spoke to last time, he's kind of having a bit of a moral quandary about it. I won't be going 100%, but I do worry that we would take a lot. I know Sunderland would obviously take a lot, and I feel like until an under-21 and under-23s team gets to the final, and you see like one end of the stadium with 30,000 people in it, and then the other end of the stadium with, the players' families and, one man and his dog, it won't be kind of shown up as the kind of farce that it is. They'll always use those Wembley crowds as a justification to say, oh no, it's working, don't worry, we're going to carry on. It's just a horrible, horrible situation.
Yeah, it's absolutely stupid. I mean, when we got to the quarterfinals, we were just talking, among friends. And we said, oh, Man City look pretty good. They've knocked Barnsley out. They've knocked Rochdale out. And it was just like, they're knocking some teams out. If we were playing Bristol Rovers in the semi-final, but the chance was to play Man City under 21s in the final, I think I would go. I don't think I'd be too excited about playing an under 21 team in the final. I'm very pleased it's got to the point where we're playing Bristol Rovers and one or Bury or Portsmouth. That makes me feel like we're beating an actual team to win a tournament. I'm very pleased with being the team that the fans may not have boycotted it, but the team certainly is enjoying dispatching of the under 21 teams. Newcastle under 21s first, and then Man City. So we're having our own little part of the boycott. But I know there'll be a lot of Sunderland fans listening to it who would feel quite alien to the fact that you wouldn't go. Bristol Rovers in a final, and I understand that, because to me, I'm the fan. As you said, if we were playing in the street, I'd watch from the pavement, But do you understand Sunderland's viewpoint and why we're not boycotting it? Can you? Because a lot of fans don't.
Yeah, I can understand it. I think there's from other teams, and actually from Rovers fans as well. I feel like there's maybe the perception that because Sunderland aren't going to be in League One for very long, that they don't really feel as attached to the Checker Trade, formerly known as the JPT kind of thing, that lower league trophy that is kind of ours. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, 100% get it. I mean, I think we're here on, in inverted commas, merit, but I understand where you're coming from. It's the first time we've been in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's always felt like our chance to get to Wembley, and like our kind of like, we're never going to get very far in the FA Cup or the League Cup. So I always call it the JPT, the Checker Trade.
Yeah.
Kind of like, our little thing. And then, to have under 23s in there is horrible. And having you guys come down, it feels like, this is completely from the outside, that maybe your fans don't kind of get it as much.
I understand where you're coming from. I do know what you mean. There will be people that disagree with that completely, but I think you mentioned something before. It's not fair to have Man City under 23s or under 21s, whatever it may be, with a chance at winning, getting to Wembley, or could stop getting a team like Bristol Rovers getting to Wembley. I know they haven't this term, but they could have done. They've stopped Barnsley getting potentially at Wembley this year, and that's not fair, because Sunderland win the Premiership for 10 years. We don't get to Wembley very often. Bristol Rovers probably don't get to Wembley very often. And when you get there, you want it to feel justified. So I do understand where you're coming from. I would basically go because it's Sunderland at Wembley. We're probably, hopefully, with the ambitions that we have, not going to be in League One any longer than we want to be. I think it's not as easy as some people think it's going to be. Certainly our fans don't feel that way recently. But I think if we had been in the trophy for like maybe as long as you'd have, I can understand the viewpoint massively. You've probably been going every single sort of cup game and thinking it's a chance to get to Wembley. It's Johnson's Paint trophies. It was a good final to watch. Like, there was teams getting to Wembley, and it was a chance for, inverted commas, smaller clubs to get to like a showpiece trophy. Whereas now, is it a showpiece trophy if there's basically 16-year-old kids in it? No, not really.
Yeah, and you kind of have to kind of think about what's in it for them as well. Because if you are a 16, 17-year-old playing in, say, the Man City team, you're playing, like you said earlier, kind of Guardiola style football. You're not getting that kind of real football experience, the kind of, you're playing alongside players who are playing for their careers, they're playing for their contracts. And, you're getting kicked up in the air every week and you're getting people yelling at you and all that kind of stuff. It's all quite nice. It's just like a nice way to play men's football rather than going out on loan and like living a professional footballer's life.
Yeah, having to wash your own kit, having to play centre half alongside a guy who needs to win so he gets his win bonus so he can afford his mortgage. That's what kind of League 2, League 1 can be. 16-year-old playing for Man City, playing in triangles. Yeah, I get the viewpoint. But I think, and I'm coming from a fan's perspective completely as opposed to a professional's, but I think you're right. I think if you want to progress in football, I think the mental aspect of going and play for League 1 or League 2 teams massive. I don't think playing in the Checkatrade Trophy benefits them at all. And I'd be a lot happier if Sunderland had got to Wembley beating all League 1 or League 2 teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt. Moving back to Saturday, we've discussed a little bit about the players you're worried about. We've discussed a little bit about the team and what you think. What's your prediction?
I'm going to go with a tight 1-0 Rovers win. That's probably more my heart than my head, to be honest. But
yeah, you've got to go with the heart. Got to go with the heart. I'm going to go on the flip side. I think we haven't had a clean sheet for a while off the top of my head, and we haven't had a cheeky 1-0 win for a while. I think it's been since New Year's Day, since we beat Blackpool, I think. So I'll take 1-0. I was going to say 1-0 Will Grigg, and then I had such a determination not to say up the ticks directly after that video. I love that video. But yeah, I think we'll go 1-0. I think we might get an early first half goal and then go on to win it, because we were very impressive yesterday, and I think 4-2 flattered Gillingham a little bit. I don't think their 2 goals just came from nothing or / bad defending, which you see a lot of in League 1, don't you? But
yeah, absolutely.
You'll be going to the match on Saturday, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm very lucky that most of my mates stand behind the goal in the Blackthorn end, where they can see nothing. It's a fantastic atmosphere, don't get me wrong, but you can't see anything of the game. I sit in the posh seats with all the prawn sandwich brigade. I'm like right on the halfway line, so I'll get to watch.
At least you admit it.
Yeah. No, it's a lovely view. It really is, but it's terrible for atmosphere. It really is. But I'm just above the dugouts as well, so I get to see Graham ranting and raving. So yeah, it'll be a fantastic game either way, I think.
And you're not going to the semi-final, I would imagine.
I will not be, no. No, I will probably. I gotta be honest, I don't even know when it is. I don't really pay attention to the fixtures, and I'll find something to do.
You'll be washing your hair that night.
Yeah.
Something which is a bit of an in-joke, but Connor Bromley can't be doing that. But again, that's an in-joke that you totally won't understand, but the listeners will. Anyway, nice chatting to you, bud. I don't wish you luck on Saturday. I don't wish you luck on the Checkatrade. Of course I don't. That's only fair. But I do wish you luck for the rest of the season. I thought away from the football side of things, off the top of my head, I was discussing with one of my mates about best away atmospheres this season at the Stadium of Light, and I think Bristol Rovers were definitely up there. So you've got, if you needed it, my full respect. I think you were fantastic away full, and I think you really got behind the team, especially considering you lost your manager a few days beforehand and got beat. So I do wish you luck for the rest of the season, especially if you can continue to get draws against the likes of Portsmouth, Barnsley and Luton. That would be fantastic. Even if you can beat them, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we've got Barnsley on the last day of the season, actually, so that could be interesting.
Well, if you can do us a favour and just put a couple of goals past them, that'd be kind. But hopefully we've got the league wrapped up by then. But I am a wishful thinker. But Tom, thanks so much for coming on. Where can, if we wanted to catch your podcast, your Twitter page, where can we find you?
So we are GasCast on Twitter. If you search for that, you'll find us. We're on iTunes and Spotify and everything under GasCast.
Perfect. Good. Well, enjoy the rest of the season. Enjoy your night. I hope you get a good sleep. For those who are not aware of it, Tom didn't get very much sleep last night. He's in a travel lodge, and he was right outside a main road, but you've changed rooms. So I wish you a good night's sleep, Tom. All right.
Thank you, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much, Tom. Have a good one. So there's another end of the ROKER Report Extra podcast. Thanks very much for checking in again, as always. If I sound a little bit hoarse, it's because it's my third podcast of the day. Again, thanks as always for listening in. I I've made a couple of digs at wee Connor here, but I'm really, really pleased that the job he got. So I just want to end on that. I think huge testament to the guys at ROKER Report for the effort and the commitment that they put in. And thank you so much for supporting us and what we do, and for the people that do support it. Thanks so much for making it feel like it's worthwhile. At the end of the day, we all support the same club. We all want the same sort of thing. And I think it's a testament to Connor, how well he's done and how much support you've given him, that he's got the position he has. And I wish him a massive amount of luck. But yeah, on to more important things. 3 points on Saturday would be just nice, especially after the back of that win yesterday, which I thought was thoroughly impressive. Onwards and upwards.
Some exchange betting companies run short-lived promotions, like months-long offers of low commission. At BetDAG, we wanted to change the way we did things, so we set our commission at 2% permanently. That's 2% on football, horse racing, golf, almost any sport. 2%. That's just one way that BetDAG is changing for the better. For the better, like you. BetDAG, the 2% commission exchange.
Over 18s only, please gamble responsibly.